TV.
Welcome to Business Conversation, and today we're handling something that everyone seems to want to do, but no one seems to be doing it correctly or properly, which is agribusiness. And there's a very big difference between the whole aspect of agriculture and agribusiness. So that's what we'll be looking into. My name is Odipo G. I'm joined with two of my very dear friends who are actually farmers as well. And they are farmers in a very different light, because when someone hears farming, we just understand the whole aspect of djembe, gumboots, funny looking overall. But when it comes to farming, there's so much about farming that people do not know. There's the whole other side of farming, which is agribusiness and agro-processing. And we'll be basically having a conversation in relation to the same and see how we can be able to plug into that particular aspect of farming. So with me on my left is my dear boy Nick, and then I also have my boy Kanyarati. Both of them are in two different fields, soon getting into something fairly big, which I would love to hear. And just know, this agribusiness, this agro-processing thing, which plant is this? And we can be able to move from there. So gentlemen, karibuni sana, thank you for coming through. I appreciate sana. That's very awesome. So you can probably mention what you do in the farming space, because we're all farmers, yes, but we are in different sectors.
Okay.
So Nick.
So my name is Nick Abayo. Generally, where I fall in the agriculture space is on post-harvest handling. I represent a company called AGRI-BIZ from Israel. I am the Africa representative for them. What we do is help you handle your produce after harvesting. Okay, like how do we help you take care of a fruit, like let's say if it's an avocado, how do you take care of it gently before it gets to the market? If it's a tomato, if it's to the smallest of everything, including dates, that's what we do. And because we realize one thing, there's a bigger gap between the harvest and the market. That's where losses occur. Losses don't occur actually at the shop. No, they occur or in the farm. No, it's in between there. So that's where we come in. And in Kenya and Africa, we've been able to actually we are in like 17 different pack houses currently, whom we are supporting in their agribusiness space to help them handle different produce that come from Kenya. And on the other side, I've been able to also be involved with avocado farmers, teaching them how to handle their fruits from soil to actually...
You know, one of the things I've always said, and I've always told people over and over again, that one of the biggest differences between agriculture and agribusiness is that agribusiness starts where agriculture stops.
Thank you.
Yes. So when the farmer harvests the crop, that's when agribusiness starts. But everything else they have been doing, excuse me, for probably 3 seasons, or 3 months, or 4 years, or 8 years, depending on what you're planting, that is agriculture.
Yeah.
Kanyarati, you literally grew up in a very big farm, and then moved to the city. Mambo gani hiyo ba?
Let me introduce myself first. My name is Jackson Kanyarati. Actually, it's amazing where I am now, because by profession, I'm an interior designer and contractor, and also a developer of property. And just like Odipo said, we all have some farming in us. We all think just because we have a small piece of land that we are doing some serious agriculture, which is possible. But mine is a bit historical when it comes to understanding and getting to know agriculture. Why? Simply because my late father had a big 3,000-acre farm beyond Makuyu area. And the thing about it is that he had coffee, about what, maybe 1,500 acres of coffee. There were cows on it. I think, bulls which used to sell into the market. There were also grapes which they used to grow and sell in the market. In fact, even I go further, the dams which were 2 had fish which used to fish and supply. So it was quite integrated. But you know what? His focus was based on coffee. Everything else was based. And why? I think, in my opinion, now when I reflect back, it was all an ego trip, which is what many of the old Wazés did. They invested in this land because it was necessary to look like you're one of the big guys, you're established and everything. But they had little or barely any understanding of agri-business. So what did he have? As long as the coffee was collected and sold to KPCU, and at the end of it there was money, he didn't. The rest was subsidiary. Yes. So his product was coffee. All these others slowly deteriorated. And unfortunately, what happened in the late 80s and early 90s, coffee prices actually plummeted completely. And that being his mainstay in the coffee in the coffee business, it's like he lost track and control of a lot of things in the coffee line. Because if you see what was, the land was more than fertile. It was in an area marginal, but there were 2 dams that provided enough water.
All year.
Yes, there was enough water for a year. Used to, but it was overhead sprinkling, which of course is expensive and difficult. But that's what they knew, and all of them inherited after buying from a colonial Muzungu in the past, who took over. Then he took over the land in 1968-69. So when he took up, and my father was a senior prisons officer, so you can see his understanding of agriculture and what it was mainly saying, mimi niko na shamba kubwa. So that's where it is.
So he was happy he had a farm?
Of course.
Okay.
Period.
Yes.
That's so your dad was not even in agriculture. He's just somebody who owned a piece of land.
True.
There was once a group of young people who are moving away from the farms. And then we now have many young people who are into farming. Why is that? Why is there a shift? There's a general interest that has popped up for farming and agriculture. There's a euphoria. Ever since the time for quails. You guys remember quails? You remember quails?
Didn't you all suffer from that pyramid scheme? Yeah, God. I did. I confess.
You did? What happened?
Please don't even go down that road, because it was a painful experience. And everything was a loss of money. In fact, today, whenever I talk about it with a few people, all people do is laugh, because
it's really. Now, the thing is, the reason why we have young guys getting to agri-business is because we have this type of euphoria going around that agriculture is cool. Okay, but it's something we also have to be very careful about, because we have a generation that lacks patience. So you can't tell me to grow something for 3 years. Okay, that is the misconception people have.
Because just 6 months is a long time.
6 months is a long time for a youth in this country. Okay, but yes, we have those who will stay, but a few are going to fall out of the way because of the concepts that they have. We are used to Ponzi schemes, make money quick type of schemes around, and that is where guys are, because everyone is now talking about doing a certain type of produce because it's easier to make money from there. But nobody has ever gone behind the scene to know what does it take.
You've mentioned that thing of that the agriculture is cool, and I've heard that slogan so many times. Yeah. I don't think it is. Personally, I would rather say farming is cool, because you see, when you put young people on the rail of agriculture, you need to understand that you're putting them under a mold that has been there since time immemorial. Yeah. And if the young people do not like that mold, they will not embrace it.
I think let's particularly focus on Kenya.
Yes.
Sometimes you need to look back to understand where we are today. our old way of agriculture was simply what?
Respect to the rains.
Everything was based on rain-fed. You grew the little you needed for your eating.
Subsistence.
And it was
generally.
just subsistence. There was barely anything beyond that.
Yeah.
Now, the colonialists come and start telling guys, you know what? You can do bigger chunks of land. You can mechanize. You can improve. You can work on it. So what are we? But everyone else was what? A worker. All they did was work. They were not shown how to do anything. All they were told, you dig here. And that's all he did. He dug and went home. You dig like this and went. Nobody even taught them, imparted with them the necessary skills that will help them understand why that former colonial master who was running his farm was doing it. He didn't explain. Even if he was growing coffee, all they did was pick. After that, blank. So you have to understand where it came from. Then our parents, at least people of my dad's age, now are the ones now in the late, just before turning over, they started being employed in the system. Because they were older than baby boomers. Okay. Yeah. So now what were they doing? They started taking up, they started saying, I own this chunk of land. I own. So now what? Okay, some of us just grew maize, and in some parts like Kitale, you just put the maize down and it grew. You harvested and you didn't even need to think about it. Then slowly there was a shift where people now started thinking, this is not cool.
Let's go to get
all of us came to look for jobs. All of us went to university, and your parents insisted you must get a degree. Go ahead. So you go ahead, and what do the next job you are looking for is an office job. So there was no time to relate to the soil and the land. Even if you came from the village, what the first thing you needed to do was run away from the having to do farming, digging, milking cows at 4 a.m. in the morning, and doing so many other things which were not cool or didn't agger well with a person with education. And after all, what did your parents want you to do? Either become a teacher, work in a bank. Even lawyers came the other day. This is a hype which is here to. But before that, there was nothing like that. Teacher, doctor, lawyer, and the word engineer, which they didn't understand. But engineer. Those are the things people looked at. Now, when that group was seated and doing their thing, they had no time to impart anything on up. In fact, they chased you away. They wanted you to go to the city and work. How many parents do you know, the old ones, incorporated their families into the running of the farm professionally? I don't know any. My dad, even where he was, he employed a manager and he was here in the city. So you travel every other weekend here to go weekend farmer. After they did, and it makes it, you know, and when he sits outside, he looks and he sees, it looks good. It feels good. But unfortunately, they failed to impart that information and need for that in us. Yes. Because I remember most of them benefited a lot during the 1977 coffee boom. Yes. It was us. The change was amazing in that whole country. That's when you found guys eventually driving Range Rovers, the old one. And they were carrying nipia grass at the back. They did, it took on a pesa. It was an element of money that was made. So you need to finally get to a point today where it's going. People have gone to work. There's not enough work. Guys even who are educated don't have jobs. And then every year you realize there's drought in this country. There's always, people are always struggling, food shortage.
It's the only service that never misses.
You're paying a lot of money for food which you should be growing in your back garden. So it's a mental shift when now guys start realizing that now it's what is it that is remaining. And when you look at us as a country, we are not big on minerals. We are big on creativity and trying to think what next. And of course there's the shift now of technology. But even after that, they realize technology still needs to be worked on with a full stomach. So it's a culture which is turning around and slowly getting there.
Yeah, you've mentioned Kitale, and it's one of the examples I like giving of the difference between agriculture and agribusiness. When you think about it, the culture that is there in Kitale for the longest time ever has been maize. Whenever you mention Kitale, it's maize. Whenever you mention Kericho, it's tea. Whenever we mention Mumias, sugarcane. And that's the culture that we have had in our system, time immemorial, you know. So, in getting the culture, the young people I have met and I know, they have no problem understanding the culture. They understand the culture because they have grown up in the culture, you know. What Kanyarati is mentioning is the aspect of missing the information that will get them to agribusiness and agro-processing. Now, where now you are saying you start from where now the harvest, after the farmer has harvested her.
Then that's where you come. Yes. But you see, I always like using these examples. Kenya produces coffee, but we import instant coffee. Okay, we have tea, but we don't produce tea sachets. If you look at it that way, that's where agribusiness starts. Okay, the element of agribusiness is tiring. That's why most people don't like going there, because it's tiring to convert tea to a sachet. You see, and not everyone will want. It's tiring to convert avocado into avocado oil. So it's a tiring process. Agribusiness is tiring, considering elements of support are not there. Okay. But the moment we start looking at it from an element of business, because business starts from capital. It's a seed you have to put in. Before you decide, I want to farm in Kitale, ignore the culture. Okay? Try going against the grain. I always tell guys there's always space when you do something alone. Okay? Try going against the grain and look at how things will work. Okay? Some areas in this country known for like tea, coffee and all that, produce the best avocados. Okay? Some areas produce the best passion fruits. Go to Wasingishu County, it has the best purple passion. Okay? Yeah, for a very long time, there's a place called Yatta, where it was initially very dry. But those guys now produce their own food and sell. You see? Because there is what is called a mental shift. So let's get a mental shift from traditional ways of doing agriculture. Let's not rely on rain. We have companies that support in irrigation. Okay? Kenya produces tanks. We have water pumps. We can do something. And we can feed ourselves all around.
Let me interject. First, I want to bring you to a point where where has it all gone wrong and what has fed us to what we are today? First, I think ego and pride has played a big role in what looks cool in a suit driving a car that looks nice. So that's the main thing. And then you have to understand even the knowledge we have, even if it's imparted to us, you've been told, who doesn't know agribusiness is serious business in the world? Majority of the people do know. And people have always talked, even when you go to the village, when the guy is carrying the coffee so that it can be milled, they know ule anambaya ako America analipa $4 for a cup of coffee. Na sisi hapa even $1 hatuwezi ona for a kilo of raw cherry. But the thing is this, people need to know that information is not what changes you. Even if you have the information. The next question is, what are you doing with it? And then, thirdly, are you getting the mental shift that is going to help you understand the need for that change and why? Because it's going to be very big to make people it's not, you can sell all the idea of all these saying agribusiness, processing, it's all good. But where are we? Are guys understanding that factor and what it means? You can get the information, but until you get a mind shift. And it's sad that, I remember when we were in primary, agriculture was, we didn't even do it in my standard 7, sorry, what am I saying? In standard 7, there was no agriculture. The old 742 system did not have agriculture it was just a subject, but you didn't do any exam for it. Then over and above that, after that, the few who did agriculture in high school, there was no A-level agriculture. I never saw it. So you have to understand historically what has brought us to this point. So we've never, even for example, how many schools have land and are producing their own food which they are feeding their own students with. I mean, maybe there are a few schools, but
They're all in
majority
the city.
end up buying. Not even those in the city.
They don't produce.
Most, even in the village. All those boarding schools don't have land, but they're not producing anything to
Traditionally,
generate.
boarding
Well, how are you
schools have
teaching
so much
guys
land.
and making them money? Are you getting my point?
Yeah, I get the whole aspect of mind shift and culture.
Yes.
That's why when we began, I mentioned the aspect of people understand the culture. Because culture is something that has been set. Culture is there. Culture is like a mold. For instance, the coffee in here has taken up the mold or the shape of this particular cup. Okay, so think about it like this cup is the culture. And then whatever we pour in here, if it's coffee, if it's juice, if it's porridge, whatever we are going to pour in here is going to take up the shape. So agriculture, as we have known it since time immemorial, has a certain shape in Kenya. Okay, so taking whatever it is that young people have or want, and then trying to fit it in here, if it's not malleable, if it's not liquid, it will not take up this shape. There will be a conflict of interest. You see? So I think that's one of the things that has really come about, in the sense that we have young people who understand the culture, shape of agriculture, but their rigidity and whatever it is that has grown in them, be it impatience, be it lack of capital, be it lack of, all these excuses, they cannot fit in here.
Next time on Clean Money Monday.
You've mentioned something about Kitale, and we've mentioned something about some regions producing some of the best avocados, for instance, even though they're producing other crops. One of the things I've also come to realize that it's quite a hindrance when it comes to the youth getting into the farming space is many do not know alternative crops. For instance, one day I was doing my research and I realized the sugar beet tuber produces sugar as well. Produces, and it can grow in Mumias very well.
This is Clean Money TV.